Hi friends, it's Hamilton here. Um, I want to talk about my college years after school, and just to set the setting, I didn't do well at school, honestly. I just made my matric year, or year 12 as it were. Got average marks, middle of the line, nothing great and nothing too bad, but nothing exceptional. I had a choice, as all South African boys of my age. We have the exact same choice, and that was go to army, could go and study. I didn't know what to become, and to be honest, my mother suggested that I become a teacher, and so I applied for Teachers Training College. There was only one training college in the whole province of Natal, Teachers Training College, Edgewood College down in Durban, Pinetown actually, and so I applied. I thought, I'd love to be a teacher. I thought my middle years of school were great. I'd be a senior primary teacher, and I loved geography. I'd teach geography, and at the same time, I thought PT. I love sport and being active, so phys ed teacher, what a pleasure. Anyway, I sent my application in and thought nothing of it. Weeks later, I got a letter to say, sorry, you weren't accepted. At this stage, all I could do was say, okay, I'm off to army. A week later, something magical happened. Another letter came that said, look, someone's pulled out of the secondary course. We're desperate for males. Would you consider taking a secondary post? Learn to become a high school teacher rather than a senior primary teacher. So what the heck? Let's do it. I get out of army. The only drawback was it was a physics and chem major. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my physics and my chemistry weren't my best subjects, but yeah, let's do it. So I wrote back and said, I'm in. I'll study. Started to think about it logically. This was going to be tough. Anyway, the course involved university for my two major subjects, which are physics and chemistry, and involved the college for all my minors and other subjects, being zoology, botany, mathematics, even chalkboard technique, education philosophy. I also have to add here, in this, my first year of university, they introduced something called the calculator. Now, many of you think, what? Yep, that's when they invented the calculator. I never had a calculator at school. We had slide rules and logbooks. And so I had to learn how to use a calculator. And I also had to catch up a lot of academics. I certainly wasn't on par with the other students in my class. At this time, something terrible happened to me as well. I had a girlfriend from school, been going out with her for 3 years, and I got a letter in the post saying that she no longer wanted to be my girlfriend, and she broke up with me in this letter. We called them Dear Johnny letters, and to be honest, I was cut up and broken. I just couldn't believe it. Why would she do this to me? Anyway, the long and the short of it is, I was emotional. I got drunk, went out back with some of the guys at the back of Res, and we peed on the letter and made a bonfire and burned it, as we did in those days to get over our grief. And on that subject, I have to say, we also did, being at Edgewood was great fun, to be honest. The first 2 weeks is called Freshers Week, where you get hazed and initiated, and it's just partying, drinking, games. It goes past in a blur. It's unbelievable. Anyway, the bottom line is I did a lot of drinking. We had a bar on campus, and the whole idea of having a bar on campus was so that we didn't go off campus to get drunk. We could get drunk at campus, and which we did. Beer was very cheap. We had a hotel in town which had happy hour, and I spent many of my first half of first year, many hours at this hotel. Had a big beer garden, and it was just the traditional thing for us guys to go and drink beer after we'd done lectures. Anyway, the long and the short of it is, after there was a tragic accident in my first year where some of the kids got killed in a car accident, And so the professor, who was the head of our college, suggested that we keep the bar open longer and make the beer cheaper to keep people on campus, which was good. My life basically was party like a rock star. I had no girlfriend. I was away from my church back home, no parents. I was on a loan. I had a government loan, so they paid me money. The deal was I had every year that they gave me money to learn, I had to work back once I'd qualified. So it was a good deal, a great deal, in fact. So I spent more money than I'd ever had before on a lot of alcohol and a lot of partying and a lot of doing things that were fun. I remember I learned to surf. I did a whole lot of fishing. I did sports. Anyway, bottom line is exams rolled round at the half-year mark and I did all right. I had to study hard. It didn't come naturally to me, but I passed, which is a good thing. Well, one evening while I was sitting in the bar, which was up in the Students' Union, I looked down at a crowd of people gathering. There was some sort of meeting and I was listening in, and it was a Christian meeting. The worship was very modern and it was wonderful. There were drums and guitars, and I was kind of listening to this, and well, the long and the short of it is, at the end of the evening they gave an altar call and asked people to come and give their lives to the Lord Jesus Christ and to, you know, become born again. Well, I don't know if I was drunk or if I was totally, I don't know, it was like a magical moment. I said, I'm going. I put down my beer and I went to the front and gave my life to the Lord. This is where I joined the cult. It was a radical group, and I just absolutely loved them. I gave up all the things that I thought were sins, and before I knew it, I'd actually become the editor of the Christian magazine in the college, and it was just lots of meetings. I was totally radicalized by these people, and I started promoting the church over and over. To cut a long story short, I met a new girl who also was part of this, Caroline. She also, in the same week that I'd become a Christian, she also renewed her faith and became a Christian. We became friends, and it was just an unbelievable second half of my first year. The juggling academics, my new church, my girlfriend, it paid a toll. But when the exams rolled around, put my head down and did my absolute best. We had a stint of 5 weeks of practical teaching as well. We went into the classrooms and taught. And the long and the short of it is, after my first year, I'd passed. And it was a great relief. When second year rolled around, a different story. I decided in my second year I can do this thing, and well, the bottom line is I bought myself a motorbike. My grandfather lent me the money and I paid him back for this. It was a 185 off-road Suzuki. I spent a lot of time mucking around on my motorbike, spending time with my new girlfriend, and my academics suffered. Half-year exams rolled around. I didn't do so well. My practical teaching at the end of the year rolled around. I did well in practical teaching. It was great. And then when the exams came, unfortunately, I failed my exams. I was offered a rewrite. I did a rewrite and I failed again. Mainly physics. Physics was very hard for me at that stage. Anyway, I had to repeat second year, which wasn't the greatest. But I realized, look, I'm going to have to pull out my finger if I'm going to actually do and pass. So I worked hard in my new second year, which is actually now my third year. Anyway, the bottom line is I did okay and I passed. I decided this year to get myself a motor car license and a motorbike license. I went and signed up at the local the police station, sent me off to Marion Hill vehicle place where you go and you sign up for your licenses. And when I got there, I said, look, I'm at Edgewood College just down the road. I want to get my license. Can I please do the test and whatnot? And they said, no, that's not your home. I said, no, but I'm a resident here. They said, well, where are your parents? And my mum's in Benoni, my dad's in a place called Leeudoringstad. This basically, for all practical purposes, is where I live. Anyway, according to the law, I had to get my license in the town that I resided. I didn't reside in any of those towns, but according to them, they said, look, go get your license where your dad lives. So, in the first holidays that rolled around, I went up to this Leeudoringstad, and honestly, it's far western Transvaal. There's no tar roads, no traffic lights. There's about, 20 houses gathered around a railway station in the middle of nowhere. And they did have a traffic officer. His name was Tolly. I went and I met him and I said, look, the bottom line is I'm here for 3 weeks. I need to get my license. Is it possible? He said, all right, 2 weeks time, we'll come and do your license. He showed me where I could practice, and my dad's car at that time was a Peugeot Super 7, a massive car. I just knew that parallel parking with this thing was going to be a problem. The other problem is it was flat. There wasn't a single hill for hill starts, nothing. There was a gravel mound though in the back of the police station where you could do that part of the test. Anyway, for 2 weeks I practiced, and when it came round to doing the actual test, I had to do a theory thing, which I did, and then the police officer sat next to me in the car and we started out. After about 2 minutes, he told me to stop the car. He wound down the window and shouted at some people that were on the opposite side of the road, told them off. Thought, oh, this isn't going to go well. And then he said to me, oh, take me back to the police station. So literally 5 minutes later, he said, oh, by the way, I've been watching you. You can have your license. And he signed my paper. I was like flabbergasted. So I asked him if I could get my motorbike license. He said, sure. There's a guy on 4th Street who's got a motorbike. Just ask if you can borrow it. Same thing, but before you go home, come and see me and we'll get you a motorbike license. Bottom line is I had the motorbike for about 2 or 3 days. I went round to his spot and I said, look, I know I have to do a certain course or whatever. So he said, yep, come follow me. So I went out to the back and he couldn't open this shed that was out the back. Eventually he said, look, I've watched you. You've got your license. And he just signed it. So I went back to college with 2 licenses and I did nothing. My poor fellow students who lived down in Durban had failed their licenses numerous times and they lived in the city. So it was way harder. So I scored. Anyway, juggling, academics, church, girlfriend, in my new second year, it was tough, but I did pass. Come to third year, I was very involved in my church. They'd earmarked me for leadership, and basically I climbed the ladder in the ranks of this cult that I was in. And so I spent a lot of time with the church, very little time basically doing what I was supposed to do, studying. But when it came down to exam time and my third year exams, I did okay. I failed physics again, but I passed it on a rewrite, and hence I got into my 4th year. Well, my 4th year rolled around, and this was a big year for me because I got engaged to Caroline in this year, and we actually got married. So I became a married student. And anyway, the bottom line is I did it the right way. I asked Caroline's father for her hand in marriage. It was the thing we did in those days, and he said yes, even though he knew I hadn't graduated, and he took a chance, and guess it panned out. We're still married, by the way, so many years later. The only thing was I was exceptionally involved in my church. I mean, I was a leader in the church that I belonged to at this stage. And getting engaged to Caroline, I had to ask the elders permission, blah, blah, blah. It was a big rigmarole. They decided whatever elders do, and they said, yep, I could get married to her. It was during this period as well where Caroline and I were virgins, both of us. We just kissed and held hands. That's all we did, and that's because of the purity culture in our cult. We never did anything past that. But one night after we'd been engaged, I don't know, things got a bit hot and heavy, and we made love for the first time. And the bottom line, though, is we were racked with guilt. We knew we'd done something totally against God and our church. And so I sought help with a home group leader who promised not to tell anyone, but he did. He told the elders. And I got into huge trouble in my church. I got lectured and told they would never marry us, and I'd let God down. I'd let everyone down. Anyway, bottom line is, I was good for another 6 months or so, I guess, until we got married. And finally, we did get married, and it was great. I then moved off campus. I was in residence and lived with Caroline in a little flat. She'd already graduated and had started teaching. You earn very little money as a teacher, so things were tight, but I was back on my own, and I used to ride my bicycle to college every day. What happened with my motorbike was I think it was in my third year, I don't know, I missed this story. I had an accident and I tore my hamstring and messed my bike up quite bad. So I sold it, got rid of it, and I rode around on a bicycle. Basically what happened then was my final year rolled around, my 5th year. I studied like crazy. I didn't want to let Caroline's dad down. I didn't want to let anybody down. I was very involved in my church, and so I had to work really hard. Late nights I studied, and lo and behold, when I did my finals in my 5th year, I passed straight. Everything passed, including physics, which I'd battled with so many times. It was just such a relief. With college behind me, unfortunately, I was still conscripted to go to the army, and so the next thing was I had to go off to the army, but I'll explain that in another video. That was a whole experience as well, my army training. Anyway, please like, subscribe. It really helps me with the logarithm and how this video works in YouTube. Thanks. I'll see you guys. Cheers. Bye.